Hey, it's Kyle here, and I'm excited to continue my series where I'm rereading the new Jedi Order series. In this video, I'll be talking about Dark Tide 2, Ruin by Michael Stockpile. Really enjoyed this book in the series a lot. I think it contains a lot of the things that, for me, were the strong point of this series. You know, looking back before I started this process, I think the things I remembered the most about the new Jedi Order series that I enjoyed a lot was the diversity in the Jedi. That you had several different Jedi that basically viewed the Force in very different ways. They all had their strong suits, and they were all finding their role within the Order. And that's true for the Jedi that we knew very well from the movies, like Luke Skywalker, but also Jedi that we're learning about that are solely, characters coming from the books and comics and stuff like that. Because in this series, as the name implies, this is a new order, it is the new Jedi Order. And Luke is very upfront. He's the leader of the Jedi, but he received very limited training. He never really went for formal training like all Jedi in history had before the fall of the Republic. So in a lot of ways, everybody's having to discover stuff as they go along and finding their role in the Force. Because basically, if you think about Luke, who's really only interacted with, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and then his dad. So how people view the Force is very shaped from those people he's interacted with. So he's trying his best, but he admits I don't know everything. And then you also have this tension within the Jedi Order of all these young Jedi who are just coming up, who were not a part of the fight of the Empire, and they very much want their chance for glory. They view Luke and the people of his generation as these great heroes, and they definitely respect him. They almost like, you had your chance to prove yourself. Now it is our chance. And so they're very much more itching for a fight. They're looking for reasons to fight. Where Luke and the older Jedi are trying to being a Jedi doesn't mean always fighting. So I think this book is an excellent examination of this tension between how different Jedi are viewing the Force, what their role is in a conflict. Extremely well done. So like with the rest of the series, the Yuuzhan Vong's invasion is progressing, and the thing I always like about these early books, you have the Jedi and the New Republic fighting back, and they have these small victories, and you start to get your hopes up, and it's kind of showing like, hey, there's a way we can fight back, but at the same time, the Jedi might win a small battle, but the Vong win the overall campaign. So maybe they win this fight here, but the Vong still take a city. They win this fight in this aspect of it, but the Vong still take the planet or destroy a planet. And this continues to you're starting to see little things like the Jedi and the New Republic are figuring out tactics and way to fight the Vong that might be the beginning of how they win later on, if they do win. But the Vong are still rolling along and in some ways feel like an unstoppable machine because, in some ways it's almost worse for the Jedi and the New Republic. Like they're getting these small victories and like, hey, we've accomplished something, but then they still lose a planet. And then you're like, well, did we actually accomplish anything? What are we doing here? Probably my favorite character in this book is Corran Horn. He is kind of Luke's number 2 for the first few books in this series so far. He's not the most powerful Jedi, but he really understands his place in the Order and his place in the Force. And he has taken upon himself to try to figure out how to stop the Vong. So this book really, in a lot of ways, does revolve around him. Yes, you get a lot of Luke, you get a lot of Han and Leia's kids with Jaina, Jason, and Anakin. They all play a major role in this. You get a lot of New Republic politics and stuff here. But Corran Horn is really the main character of this book, and it's very fascinating to see how he's, he doesn't want to fight, but at the end he decides I will fight to try to protect life, to save life. When it is necessary. And you see him throughout the book almost preparing for this fight, figuring out what can I do to maybe save as many lives as possible. He eventually settles on challenging the leader of a specific Yuuzhan Vong invasion to a one-on-one duel, like a warrior's code of honor type of thing, and whoever wins will agree to give up this specific planet, Ithor, to the other side. And you can tell he's doing this because he's not sure if he'll win, but he feels like this is the best chance they can save this planet and also save all the lives of these New Republic soldiers, the citizens of Ithor, everything, because otherwise this planet's just gone. The other aspect of this book I really loved a lot is we're getting the Imperial Remnant coming in the storyline. That's one thing I always loved about the old Expanding Universe books is getting the New Republic, the Jedi, but also getting the Imperial Remnant, specifically led by Pelion, who, you know, a lot of people know as Thrawn's number 2 from those books and stuff like that. A little bit we get in the animated series. We've got a little bit of him in live action in the TV series, but not a lot yet. But in the books, Pelion is this amazing guy that's like, you know, he is an Imperial, but he's, you know, not a bad Imperial. He's not a monster. He's not trying to massacre people. He's really trying to preserve order. And in some ways, he's holding back the bad aspects and the bad individuals in the Empire, or at least trying to. But he's very much viewed as the Republic as, you know, perhaps the top military leader, especially experience-wise, but even tactically-wise, in the galaxy, perhaps. So he might be the best person to help them fight. So you have Leia going and trying to convince the Imperial Remnant this Yuuzhan Vong invasion is a threat to the entire galaxy, not just the New Republic. They're not going to be satisfied just conquering the New Republic. They want everything. And I think Pelion understands this threat, but he also explains to Leia, you know, like, I'm not the Emperor. I don't have complete control of this. I just can't force the forces under my control to back you. It's going to take some time and some effort. But luckily, as this book progresses, the Imperial Remnant does become involved. Pelion figures out how to make it happen. And the other aspect of this book a lot, you also get some of the Chiss coming in to evolve. The Chiss are kind of aligned with the Imperial Remnant, probably because of Pelion's association with Thrawn. So you get this, you know, Chiss / Imperial force coming to the aid of the New Republic. So you're getting all this different aspects of how these different cultures, these different political entities view war, view military force, view the Force, and it's very, very interesting. Like the culture shock between the Chiss and the Jedi is very fascinating in this book, and I really enjoyed a lot. Getting to learn more about the Yuuzhan Vong in this book, and we get a lot more of their culture, how they view pain, how they view their right to conquer the galaxy, all that type of stuff. I really enjoyed that, you know, as this series goes on, you're fleshing out more and more of what the Yuuzhan Vong believe in. And they're not just like this nameless enemy that's pure evil. You're learning more like why they are doing what they're doing. They're not just being evil for the sake of being evil. They have reasons for what they're doing. Now, are they good? No. But at least there is some logic behind their actions, which I always enjoy. So as we get to the end of this book, you're getting a lot of character development. Cornhorn does win his duel, but it doesn't work out. The Yuuzhan Vong end up and destroy yhctower anyway. Because once that Yuuzhan Vong leader is killed, the next person assumes command. He's like, well, I'm not beholden to him. Like, I'm my own man. I want to make my own thing. And the other thing you're seeing through this book, yes, the Jedi and the New Republic are riven political divisions. I think what the Jedi don't understand and the New Republic does understand, Yuuzhan Vong has these same divisions, these same power struggles, and we're kind of seeing that play out through all these books as the various factions of the Yuuzhan Vong are fighting for power so they can claim credit for this conquest. So they can have the most important positions in the political and military and religious orders within the Vong. You know, I think the Jedi are learning that, you know, this is not a unified entity that we can just negotiate and everybody's going to agree to it. You know, every Vong is going to be a little bit different. This series, Anakin was always one of my favorite characters, so you're beginning to see Anakin kind of mature as a young Jedi. In fact, the older Jedi are already joking that Anakin is going to be the most powerful of all the Jedi. And it's kind of interesting to see how he is slowly growing into the powerful force that people that read this series know he's heading towards, and what is eventually going to happen with his character is fascinating, this series. And you're seeing him develop as this young Jedi that's unsure of himself, this blaming for himself what happened to Chewbacca in the first book in the series, is now regaining his confidence. The political side of this stuff, my degree is in political science, I'm a political nerd. I enjoy as we're exploring more of the New Republic politics, and even one part of this book I really enjoy that, you know, they point out when the New Republic political establishment is kind of posed to a certain way that the army and the Jedi are taking a certain tactic, but then it's pointed out to them like, you know, it doesn't matter what happens, the political leaders are going to win either way. If the army and the Jedi tactics do work, the political leaders say, well, we endorsed them, of course they worked. If they don't work, then the political leaders like, well, this was the army and the Jedi Order's idea, we didn't want them to do this, So, you know, we need to be in charge. We need to be in charge of overseeing the army and the Jedi Order. So they win either way. So we'll definitely see that come up more as this series progresses. So I really enjoyed Dark Tide 2 Ruin. The great thing is I'm rereading these series. Like, I remember the overall story beats, but I don't remember what happened in each book. So every time I pick up a book, I don't know, like, is this one of the books I enjoyed, or is this a weaker book in the series? Because this series is really long. There are a few weak books in the series. So every time I start a book, I always don't know. I was like, is this a book I enjoyed a lot, or is this one of the ones I was like, I have to reread this one? But Dark Tide 2 Ruin is definitely a book that I really enjoyed this series, and I think one of the better books in the series, honestly, because once I read this, like, oh yeah, this is a good one. So this is my progress, I guess, and currently rereading the New Jedi Order series. I hope you're enjoying this series I'm doing. I hope you're reading this series along with me, maybe for a second, third, fourth time, or maybe this is the first time you were reading this series. But thank you for coming along on this journey with me. If you haven't yet, please like this video if you enjoyed it. If you have yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time, and may the Force be with you.